That's delicious. It's so good. If I learned one thing from Julia Child, like watching her and reading one of her books, it's don't be afraid to get messy in the kitchen. There's nothing better than a fresh, out of the oven loaf of bread with some country butter. Friends, welcome back to the Bumblebee Farmhouse, a place where I hope that you can find a little bit of inspiration to make your house a home sweet home. In today's video, I will be doing some baking. I haven't been in the kitchen baking it all lately, the last few months actually, and today I really felt like the need to bake. I've really been craving it, and it's something that I truly enjoy doing and I love sharing with you guys. So today we are going to make some Irish soda bread with that was Benny. Today we're going to make some Irish soda bread with a little bit of a classic twist. I'm going to make the Barefoot Contessa's Ina Garten's Irish soda bread. It's my go-to, but I love adding some caraway seeds in there, and that little twist is from Martha Stewart because she puts caraway seeds. So I'm going to do it with currants and caraway seeds. It's going to have like a sweet and savoriness to it. It is a beautiful yet easy to make bread, and I love pairing it with some fresh country butter. So if you guys want to hang out with me, you have a little bit of time today and you want to bake in the kitchen or just get cozy and hang out with me while I bake, I'd love to have you over here at the Bumblebee Farmhouse, where you are always welcome. Let's go ahead and get to baking. And the nights on our own have been cold. Won't you lay down beside me? We'll rest for. So this recipe is from the Barefoot Contessa. I'm going to go ahead and link that recipe down below in the description box. The only thing that I've done differently was I added about a 1/4 cup of caraway seeds to the bread. I'm going to go ahead and link that for you guys if you choose to make it. It is a really great recipe. At the end of this journey that's taken so long, close your eyes now, my love, and soon you'll. Irish soda bread was first created in the 1830s when baking soda was first introduced to the UK. At that time, Ireland was facing a financial hardship and lack of resources, so they turned to soda bread out of necessity. It was inexpensive and required very few ingredients. Even Irish families who lived in the most isolated parts of the country could gather the ingredients to make Irish soda bread. At that time, many of the lower class in these remote areas did not even have oven access, so they used an iron pot and griddles over open hearths, a unique cooking method that gave soda bread its dense texture, hard crust, and a slight sourness. Despite its humble beginnings, Irish soda bread has become a large part of the typical St. Patrick's Day feast, and it plays a major role in Ireland's culinary history. So while I'm making the Irish soda bread, and it is the week of St. Patrick's Day, I am going to get into talking about St. Patrick and who he was. And I never really celebrated St. Patrick's Day until I really took a look at this saint and kind of read up about his life and who he was. And I'm going to get into that too, but I found a beautiful prayer that was written by St. Patrick that I want to share with you. Because I really feel like we forget the meaning of the holiday when it is masked by really good food and lots of beer and fun music, which is all great, but there is so much meaning to it. I arise today through a mighty strength, the invocation of the Trinity, through the belief of the threeness, through the confession of the oneness of the Creator of creation. I arise today through the strength of Christ's birth with his baptism, through the strength of his crucifixion with his burial, through the strength of his resurrection with his ascension, through the strength of his descent for the judgment of doom. I arise today through the strength of love of the cherubim, in the obedience of angels, in the service of archangels, in the hope of resurrection to meet with reward, in the prayers of patriarchs, in the predictions of prophets, in the preaching of the apostles, in the faith of the confessors, in the innocence of the holy virgins, in the deeds of righteous men. I arise today through the strength of heaven, the light of the sun, the radiance of the moon, the splendor of fire, the speed of lightning, the swiftness of wind, the depth of the sea, the stability of the earth, the firmness of rock. I arise today through God's strength to pilot me, God's might to uphold me, God's wisdom to guide me, God's eye to look before me, God's ear to hear me, God's word to speak for me, God's hand to guard me, God's shield to protect me, God's host to save me, from snares of devils, from temptations of vices, from everyone who shall wish me ill, afar and near. I summon today all of the powers between me and those evils, against every cruel and merciless power, that they may oppose my body and soul, against incantations of false prophets, against black laws of pagandom, against false laws of heretics, against craft of idolatry, against spells of witches and smiths and wizards, against every knowledge that corrupts man's body and soul. Christ to shield me today, against poison, against burning, against drowning, against wounding, so that there may come to me an abundance of reward. Christ with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ in me, Christ beneath me, Christ above me, Christ on my right, Christ on my left, Christ when I lie down, Christ when I sit down, Christ when I arise, Christ in the heart of every man who thinks of me, Christ in the mouth of everyone who speaks of me, Christ in every eye that sees me, Christ in every ear that hears me. A morning prayer by St. Patrick. I've been having so many different thoughts and feelings go through my head lately. I feel like there is a change going on in my life, and I feel like there's a tugging and a pulling, a voice telling me what to do and how to live my life. How is it that all of God's creatures already know what to do through their instincts, and yet we as humans are so complex that we question literally everything, rather than just listen? Sometimes there is a voice in my head telling me what direction to go to in life. If we stop to listen, just listen, sometimes rather than listen to our own hearts, maybe we would make better choices and decisions. Sometimes the heart can guide you in the wrong direction. And I think to myself, God, is that you speaking to me? Sometimes I feel lost, and at times I find myself searching. But maybe I'm searching to fill a void. Material things are only temporary. I find myself loving materials at times, and sometimes I want to throw it all away. Sometimes I feel like, why have so much of it if we are only passing by in this life? Everything here is so temporary. The only thing that is real is God, family, friends, love, memories, relationships. I do find myself wanting more, always trying to achieve as much as I can. If I learn one thing from Julia Child, like watching her and reading one of her books, it's don't be afraid to get messy in the kitchen. But maybe if I stopped for a second and took a good look around, I could see how blessed I really truly am. To having people around me who love me, but more importantly, a God with everlasting love. Good health, a roof over my head, food in our home and on our table, the breath in my lungs every morning, eyesight to see the sun come up, hearing to hear the delightful sound of the sweet birds in the morning, speech to voice my opinions, communicate and tell those important to me how much I love them, speech just to be here and to speak to all of you. But yet, I'm always wanting and yearning for more. If I could simply just be, like God's creatures without overthinking everything, to know how truly blessed that I am. That's what this life is. It's a true blessing. And if we stop listening to all of the outside noise and all of the distractions, we would be truly able to see, feel, and hear what we have and what is so important. The grass is not always greener on the other side, and I have to remind myself of that. Sometimes I look at other people and what God has given them, and I wonder to myself, why was I not given those same things? But I also have to remind myself that God gives me different things, and always on His time. It will never be on mine. And how much of a blessing it is to be put here on this earth. St. Patrick lived somewhere around the years of 390 to 460 AD. People all over the world still celebrate his feast day. Throughout it is usually by consuming alcohol, wearing the color green, and perhaps decorating with four-leaf clovers. But who was St. Patrick? What kind of life did he live? The real St. Patrick had less in common with the modern preachers and more with the Eastern mystics of the Desert Fathers. While the Desert Fathers fled cities and entered into deserts in order to focus on prayer, St. Patrick found constant communion with God in the interior desert of his heart. His life overall was very fascinating, hybrid of missionary and desert father. He prayed hundreds of times in the day and night, meaning that he truly understood what it means to pray without ceasing. He memorized the book of Psalms and would pray 50 of them each day. St. Patrick was not Irish, but he was taken as a slave to Ireland from Britain when he was about 16. Recounting his capture, he considered it just as punishment from God for his immoral lifestyle in his youth. As a slave in Ireland, he shepherded a flock, and during that time he began to pray and found God. One night he was told in a dream of his upcoming return home, and shortly thereafter a voice said to him, "Behold, your ship is ready." He left the flock he was tending to, walked about 200 miles to the coast, and boarded a ship as the Spirit led him. He had some adventures on his way home and eventually arrived in Britain, where his kinfolk lived. While preparing to be made a deacon in Britain, Patrick confessed a sin of his childhood to a dear friend. Around the same time, this friend recommended to the church leaders that Patrick be made bishop. While Patrick was absent, the friend betrayed him and publicly ridiculed Patrick for his childhood sin. In his autobiography, Patrick wrestles with his betrayal, not with the bitterness, but just the sadness of what happened. He cannot understand why someone whom he respected would recommend him as a bishop and then betray him. Patrick felt a deep calling and received specific visions and vivid dreams from God that he should return to the people who enslaved him, to the Irish, in order to bring them to Christ. All of his family, fearing for his safety, begged him to stay home. They argued and even attempted to bribe him. He states that at this time he did not realize that the grace that God had given him, and he had found it difficult to argue with them. He knew his calling, but the criticism and lack of encouragement he received made it difficult for him. Patrick did not argue or attempt to defend himself from those who he wanted to keep in Britain. He remained silent and in the face of the opposition. But God opened a door that Patrick might come to the Irish people and preach the gospel and endure insults from unbelievers, that he might hear scandal of his travels and endure many persecutions to the extent of prison, and so that he might give up his free birthright for the advantage to others. And if he should be worthy, he was ready to give them his life without hesitation and most willingly for his name. After being made a bishop, Patrick, with ardent resolve, fled his family, went to Ireland, and faced many difficulties. His conversion of many thousands of Irish caused the dissent and jealousy among the Druids of the land. God kept him safe, and in many difficult situations he wrote, "Daily I expect to be murdered or betrayed or reduced to slavery." He was nearly killed, betrayed, and captured at least 12 times that we know about. However, God quickly freed him from every situation, and Patrick remained a missionary in Ireland, dying a natural death at an old age. Okay, the bread smells so amazing. Look at how gorgeous it is. It is a beautiful loaves of bread. I have some fresh farm butter, some Zeal butter. Patrick used the 3-leaf clover to demonstrate the concept of the Trinity to the Irish people, 3 in oneness. We're not sure how the 4-leaf clover replaced the actual 3-leaf clover that Patrick used, but perhaps because it is rare, it is considered lucky. But just as the 3-leaf clover is everywhere to be found, so is our Trinity of God. It smells so good. If you don't get here, you're missing out. Oh my gosh, this smells so good. Cheers.
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 How did I do? Was it good? No, not good. We'll see. That is good. It's got currants, orange zest, and caraway seeds. You can barely taste the caraway seeds. You could tell something's there, but it's not like super strong in flavor.
$3 a slice.
That's an expensive loaf of bread. That's delicious. It's so good. You guys, there's nothing better than like a fresh laid. Can't even speak English. Fresh laid.
Fresh laid egg.
A fresh laid egg. I didn't lay an egg. There's nothing better than a fresh, out of the oven loaf of bread with some country butter. And the bread, it's still warm. It's not piping hot. It's been sitting for about 45 minutes. But there is something so amazing about it. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
Last year I made scallion and cheese. What is it, Archie? Let's see if I can get Archie. What? A little piece of bread or some dough? You want it? You're not sure? So I want to thank you all for hanging out with me here today at the Bumblebee Farmhouse. I hope you got a little bit of inspiration to get in the kitchen and make your house a home sweet home. And remember, friends, as Dorothy Gale once said, there's no place like home. That's right, friends. Home, sweet home. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.